Hi guys, welcome to another video based on slopes of perpendicular lines, and I hope that you'll enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. So if neither line is vertical, then the slopes of perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals. And you should know that the lines with slopes that are negative reciprocals are perpendicular to each other. And if the product of the slopes of two lines is actually -1, then the lines are perpendicular to each other. I hope that you do understand how the perpendicular lines and also the slopes or gradient works, because we are going to talk about it in this lesson. So now, if you want to check if the lines are actually parallel to each other or perpendicular to each other, you have to check that via the slopes, right? And you can actually call it the gradients, right? So when you get to varsity, they'll be talking about integration, they'll be talking about slopes and other things. However, for grade 12 or grade 11, you can actually call it a gradient. So when we calculate the gradient between two lines, this line and the other line, we have to make sure that we use the right formula for it, right? And with that, it means that we are going to use this particular value and also this particular value right here, right? Let me try to get a pen so that you can understand how they work. So if we take our 7, maybe y2 minus y1, and then x2 minus x1. So this will be what? It will be 7 minus into -9, and then this all over 3 minus, and then 5 right there. So this will be our equation for m, more especially m1, because this is our m1, or maybe line 1 we can call it, right? So with this, it means that we can continue and say the gradient of m1 is equal to 16 all over -2, and that will equal -8, because remember, when you divide by negative number, then you are probably or you are actually going to get a negative. Or when you multiply a number by -1 or negative any number, you are going to get a negative number. So we just calculated our first m1 or gradient, and with that we can actually go to our second m2, or second line we can call it, right? So with that we can go and say y2 and then minus y1, and then we go for x2 minus x1, and that will give us the following 1 over 8. And if you check 1 over 8, it's just m2, or the gradient of m2 or line 2. So now how do we check if maybe the two lines are actually parallel to each other or perpendicular to each other? So I would say that when we talk about parallel line, they have the same m, or you can just say the same slope, right? They have the same slope. However, when it comes to the perpendicular lines means that let's say that you have your m1, which is equal to 1, and then your m2, which is equal to maybe negative 1 over 2. So when you multiply them, or when you try to get the product of each, here, you should get -1 in order for us to say that the lines are actually perpendicular to each other. So if you don't get it, it means that okay, the lines are not actually perpendicular to each other. So let's try to see if we can actually get that between the two. So when we say -8 all over 1, we are just trying to say that we are just trying to multiply them, right? However, you can see that -8 -8 here, -8 will definitely be cancelled with the other -8, and then this and this will definitely be -1. However, let's try to have this and multiply the entire 1 over 8 by -8. We are going to get -8 all over 8, and then it means that from here this is equals to -1. So with the explanation that I gave you here, it means that now the lines, these M1 and M2 are actually perpendicular to each other instead of the parallel one. So your final conclusion should actually give us that the multiplication of the two, it gave us -1, which implies that line 1 is perpendicular to line 2, right? Or you can write it in words and say that line 1 is perpendicular to line 2 as your final answer. So it's very important for you to explain your answer. Just that in mathematics, they just want you to use symbols so you can actually use them, right? So now I will definitely go to the next question. And with this question, we don't actually have an answer for it. So please pause the video and try to solve it. And then after that, we are going to solve the question. Very funny that I've waited with you to continue with the question. Let me go through the question itself. So given A and B, find the equation of the perpendicular line to AB that passes through the midpoint of this line segment. So you should think about maybe the graph itself, right? So I'm just going to draw the graph so that I can understand how this particular graph looks like, right? So B at maybe 2 and also -4, so 2 and -4, and then the other one 4 and 4. So let's say that this is our 4 and also this is our 4, so meaning that the equation will definitely go like this, right? So if there is a line that is perpendicular to this one, it means that it will go straight like this and cause a 90 degrees to it, right? So what I'm going to do is to think about the 2-point, and we are talking about the perpendicular line, meaning that we have to find the gradient of the two. Let me go and write the gradient. So let me say that M1 is equals to y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1, right? So let me change the color, which is equals to, so we have our negative 4 minus 4 all over 2, sorry, minus 4, which is equals to negative 8 all over negative 2, right? And then this is equals to a positive. Remember, negative divided by negative will give us positive. Positive times, negative times negative will give us positive. So this one will give us a 4, right? So we now looking for the equation that is actually perpendicular to AB, to A and also B, right? So we are looking for this one, and we have the M1, which is equals to 4 for AB, right? Meaning that we can go and say that in order for us to get the M2 for this one, we have to get a negative one when we multiply its value with this, or the product of M1 should and M2 should give us a negative 1. So now we can go and say M1, which is 4, M1, which is 4, and then multiply by negative 1 over 4. So most of the time you can, do the inverse of this and multiply it by negative, right? So that will be the inverse of 1 over 4 will give us 1 all over 4. The inverse, you just turn it around and get 1 over 4 and then multiply it by negative, and then you're gonna get the M2, right? So it means that M2 is equals to negative 1 all over 4, right? So we are not done because sorry, we are not done because we want to get the entire equation, and with the entire equation it means that we need the values of that particular line, and the line is it's actually this one, right? So in order for us to do that, they said that it passes through the midpoint of this line segment, right? And it means that between A and B, we have the midpoint. So in order for us to get the midpoint here, we have to make sure that we say midpoint of A and B is equals to, the equation, you can actually check on your formula sheet, right? X1, the plus of X2 all over 2, and then for Y, Y1 plus Y2 all over 2, right? Which is equals to, the X1 will be 4 plus 2 all over 2, right? And then the other one will be the Y, negative 4 plus 4 all over 2, right? This is equals to, or implies that this is a 6 divided by 2, we're gonna get 3, and then this will be 0 divided by 2 will be 0. So this is the the midpoint, 3 and 0. It means that 3 for X somewhere here, and then 0 for Y, so somewhere here, 3 and 0, right? So if you check, you'll be able to see that the midpoint that we are looking for, it will be here, right? So through this graph, this line, right? So let me go and erase the board And I'm actually taking my time so that you can actually understand how this works, right? So now we are going to use the value here and m2 here to find the equation of the perpendicular line to AB, right? This equation. So that means that we can go and substitute into the equation here, right? So this equation will be 0, which is equals to, what is our m? Our m is negative 1 all over 4, and then x, right? And you know that our x is 3, and then plus c, just to get the value of c, right? And then c is equals to, so we're gonna take this to the other side, and then it will be positive 3 all over 4, right? Meaning that now we have the value of c here, then we can be able to give the answer in this form, which is y equals to, what is our m? Our m is negative 1 all over 4 x, and then the plus of c. So this is what they were looking for when they ask you to find the equation of the perpendicular line or graph to AB that passes through the midpoint, and they know that they're giving you the values of the midpoint through the given A and B coordinates. So you just have to try to think about it, try to think about how perpendicular lines works based on the slopes, or maybe based on the gradient, right? And remember that if the lines are parallel to each other, then the parallel line for M1 and M2 will definitely be equals to each other. So if they said that the lines that are parallel, it will mean that maybe you'll be given maybe the coordinate of the second line, and then AB here, meaning that you can find the gradient here, and then after that you can do what? Take the gradient and substitute it in your line 2 just to get the graph of line 2. As you know that parallel lines, they do have the equal slopes, right? Or the equal gradient. So I hope that you got it. If not, keep watching, the video and other videos that I've posted. So let's continue with the presentation, and now I'll just be going through the possible questions that you might actually get in your exam, or maybe in your final exam this year, right? So the equation of a line with the following objectives, right? So write the equation of a line given its slope and point of the line. Write the equation of a line given 2 points on the line. I think we've done that with AB, remember. Write the equation of a line given its slope and also the y-intercept. So you have to think about these objectives and how you can be able to approach the questions when you get to your examination. And as I said, that we are going to go through the questions that you might actually get in your exam. So now the objective will be to write the equation of a line given its slope and also a point on the line, right? And this is what we used, y equals to mx plus b, or maybe you can say c, as we've done it before. So this means that m is the slope or the gradient, right? And also b is the y-intercept. So with that, you can be able to solve this question here that says, write the equation of a line with slope, with the following slope, 5, and also given the y-intercept, which is actually negative 3, right? So now you have to take the slope as 5 and make sure that you replace m with that particular slope and then b with the y-intercept. And with that, it means that you're going to get y equals to 5x minus 3. So that's it actually, because you do now have the equation. This is very easy, very straightforward. Let's look at another question. Find the equation of the line through the given values with a slope m, right? So if you check here, we now do have the what? The slope and also the points, meaning that we can go and write down our equation. We know that m is equals to 3, x and y, we do have them. And when we look at our equation, we can see that we have m, we have x and y, meaning that we can just go there and place the right numbers into the equation and try to solve for b, right? So with that, it means that we have 7, which is equal to negative 6 plus b. We take 6 to the other side, will be positive, and then b will equal 13. Meaning that now we can actually replace m back with the value of b, knowing that our gradient is equal to 3, right? Very simple, very simple. So this can be done in grade 12 and also in grade 11. So write the equation of the line through 2 points. Now they are just trying to see if you can think about, the equation itself, if you can think about finding or calculating the slope, or you can say calculating the gradient using the given formula, m equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So with that, we are going to get the following value for m, 5 all over 6. So now we have to make sure that we plug them into the equation and also, the right form of the equation. So with that, it means that we can plug it and try to solve for b. And then with that, we will end up getting the value of b, which is equal to 17 all over 6. And then with that, it means that we can now replace back into the slope intercept form. And then that will be y equals to 5 over 6x plus 1, 17 over 6 for b, right? So we need the slope and also the b, which is the y-intercept actually. And remember, we only replace the m and b because they are the vital ones, right? So someone can actually try to think about the horizontal lines and vertical lines and how this can actually affect the slope or the gradient of that particular line. And with that, it means that if b is constant, then the horizontal line through AB will definitely give us y equals to b. I think we have to talk about something like this, because now I just feel like, let me just do this. I just feel like one might actually jump and say how or maybe why. So let's say, oh my god, what is that? Okay, let's say that you have y, which is equals to mx, maybe plus b or plus c, right? Let's say plus b, and then which is equals to, let's say, 2x and plus 6, right? So if we say that x is 0, what will happen? If x is 0, then it means y is equals to 6, right? Meaning that now y is equals to b as given, you see. So that would definitely be something that you should understand when it comes to, the horizontal lines, vertical lines, or maybe linear equations, right? So if we check here, write the equation of a line through these values here. And then with that, it means that the slope is 0, and it means that the line is horizontal. So y is equal to -2. There's nothing else that you can actually do here. Find the slope and y-intercept of the given equation, the slope, right? So here they just want to see if you can simplify this particular equation into the normal form. And with that, you have to make sure that you take 1 to the other side, 5 to the other side, and try to solve for y in general. And then with that, it means that we're dividing everything by 5 so that we can cancel this part here. And then after that, we'll be left with y, and then y will equal 2 over 5x minus 1 all over 5. So now this means that we have our equation as given. Very straightforward, very simple. And if you check now, they said find the slope, meaning that now you are actually in the correct form. So you can see that the slope of this particular graph is 2 over 5. Simple, simple, simple. And y-intercept will definitely be -1 over 5, which is the b variable. Write an equation for the line through this particular point parallel to this one. Okay, cool. So when we say that this equation is actually parallel, remember the parallel lines. I think I've explained, I tried to elucidate how this works, and I hope that you do understand. Make sure that this one is actually in the correct form, and then with that, you can be able to go and take this slope, right? And the slope here will be 2 over 5, meaning that you can take this slope and say, since we have the parallel lines, it means that the equation that we are talking about here, right? The equation that we're talking about here will definitely take the same gradient, right? Will take the same gradient, right? So now with that, it means that we can go and do the substitution and try to find the value of b. So if b is equals to 5, it means that now we have the gradient, we have the 5, we can say or conclude that y is equal to 2 all over 5 x plus, all over 5x plus 5, right? Very straightforward, very straightforward. Write an equation of the line through this point parallel to this. So I feel like now this is the correct presentation of the graph that that we just created. So now we know that y is equals to 2 over 5x plus 5, meaning that we know that they are actually parallel to each other. So this one here, or this slope here and this slope here, they are actually equals to each other because the lines are parallel to each other, and you know that the gradients should be equals to each other. So remember, we are going through this lesson because you're going to find this in paper 1 and paper 2. In paper 2, you might get this in terms of a circle, circle somewhere here, and then you have to get all the values in order for you to calculate the radius, the diameter, and other points and adjacent points, maybe the opposite sides and so forth, right? So I'm going to go through another one which says that write an equation in for the line through this perpendicular to this particular line. So the first thing, remember, is to go and ask ourselves, what is the value of m here? So we have to determine this and find the slope, which is 3 over 2 of this particular graph. And then after finding it, we know the tricks, right? We have to know that the perpendicular slope should be negative. So I told you last time that you can, get the inverse, or just turn this and then times it by 1, meaning that when you go there and say that you turn it 3 all over 2, multiply it -1, and then that will give you a -3 all over 2. So that's how you do it. Take this up and then the other one down, and then you get this, and then after that it means that you're gonna multiply it by this, right? And remember, most of the time you find out that you know they are in terms of fractions, but you can deal with anything if you know this style, and if you know that m1 times m2 should give you -1. So you use this formula, and when you get -1, you know that you have it. And then after getting the m2, which is this one, and then now it means that you can go for the graph. Okay, so now we can now say that, okay, let's calculate the value of b using the 2 points with the slope, this one. And then we can find out that b is equals to -9, and then we go back and say y is equals to the slope, and then minus 9, or slope x minus 9. So that will definitely be the answer. And yeah, this is how it works. I hope that you do understand it, and you can be able to answer all the questions in your exam and also the test. Let's go through another one. Write an equation in standard form of the line through the given coordinates perpendicular to this. You know what to do. Go back, try to write this equation in a standard form, and then you get this slope or gradient, and then after that you apply the m1 times m2 to get -1, and then inverse of this times negative, you get this, and then you are good to go. Now that the equation has the -3/2 as your slope, and then you can be able to plot it as given, or find the value of b, and then after finding the value of b, then you can plot the graph, right? This is very simple. And if you know that the two graphs, when we talk about perpendicular graph, right, we're talking about two graphs that are crossing each other and causing the 90 degrees angle, right? So when you deal with the circle, so then you might need to think about this, right? Sometimes you find out that you have a circle and there is a perpendicular lines, and with that they are asking you about maybe something within the circle. Let's say that the circle is somewhere here. I just want to show you something, just that I won't be able to draw the proper circle and so forth. So they want you to, let me go into this. They say that they want you to get the angle here, you see, and then the angle here, and the only angle that they gave you maybe is 38 degrees, meaning that they won't actually give you the 90 degrees here, right? They won't tell you about that. After doing the perpendicular lines, slopes, blah blah, they just tell you that, okay, give us the angle of b there, and this angle, like what are the angles, and then you just have to know that the first one that you should go for is actually the 90 degrees, and say that b, the angle at b is actually 90 degrees, and then with that it means that you can go for 90 degrees, then the plus of 38 degrees, and then you minus that from 180, because this is your 180, right? So minus 180, and then the final answer that you're going to get will be for this one. They won't actually tell you. You just have to figure it out by yourself. So I feel like this was our last section, and I'm hoping to see you again in our next chapter or video. And I hope that now you do understand the slope, or maybe the gradient of a line, perpendicular, and also the parallel slopes or gradients, right? And with that, it means that you are good. And also remember, the y-intercept is actually when x is actually at 0. Do not actually confuse that. If this is 0, and then this will always be the value there. So y is equals to what is m, which is a number, into 0, the plus of b, and this one will be 0, y is equals to b. So every time when x is actually at 0, then this is actually the value. This will always be the value, so do not confuse that. Thank you for watching. Thanks.